It's morning, but we're working. Welcome to the latest installment of the Run to Daylight show. I'm your host, Todd Burrows, and today I'm going to be checking on my edges as it relates to roster construction on Underdog Fantasy. Got into another fight on Twitter, which I seem to be pretty good at. Hold on, my camera seems to not have... No, I have the full definition. It just doesn't seem to look that good, but neither do I. But hopefully the information will be good, and we'll get you over to a screen in a minute. Speaking of Underdog Fantasy, there are 3 weeks left. The Best Ball Mania is 63% full. It's filling about 3%, 2 to 3% a day. Probably will be more than that over the weekend. Get in now. Use the code BESTBALL if you haven't before, and that will get you a match up to your first $100. Let's get to the show. Underdog has just been knocking it out of the park this year with just really great contests. They have another new contest right now that is... the big dog is back, $250. 4 people get out of their group. If they do, you make money. I love seeing that. And hopefully next year we'll also see it a little more streamlined in the Best Ball Mania, where it's easier to break even if you do really good through the first 2 rounds. But there's something about the chance to win $2 million that is inarguable. 1 million to the first place finisher in the regular season as well. So everyone is live, and let's get this thing going, this show today. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Going to go here, and then I'm going to go here. All right. So what was the argument? The argument yesterday was that, again, about ownership, and I guess I mentioned it too much that I blend my ownership. But I'm a little sensitive because people think that that you're weak, or that you're, it's like it's just a risk management thing. Well, yeah, it is. And I kind of get tired of people who mock me sitting there and going, oh no, my whole season is over before it started if Tom Brady sits out, which was the argument yesterday with Ryan. I think I pissed him off because I mentioned the term lazy leverage. And it can be. I'm not saying it is with a guy like Ryan, but for some people, well, I want risk. So I'm just going to put all my chips on these few guys. Well, with injury, it is leverage, but there are other ways to get leverage. And I'm going to show you my way of getting leverage. One of the ways I get leverage. And you think that roster construction is boring. And it's just, do I take 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks? To me, a good lineup is a lineup that's weighted so that every position group either has enough talent or enough numbers that you're not going into the competition behind. So what I was able to prove last year was that pretty much in every draft, about 30% of teams were dead. If not dead, they were way behind the 8 ball, right? Well, that takes your advance rate from 17% to 22% without doing anything. Right? You don't have to have better players. I had a 30% advance rate last year, and I missed on Cooper Kupp. I missed on Leonard Fournette. If I had picked better players, especially early, I could have had a really monster year while not having a ton of ownership on anybody. So, but last year we saw a lot of 4 running back teams poorly made, a lot of 0 running back teams poorly made. And the truth is, it's a lot easier to make a good lineup with a hero build. And hero is what's popular right now. I am not advising hero only builds. I build as the draft goes. I don't go into a draft saying this is going to be a zero build. This is going to be a hero build. But I play the board. So let's go back to the underdog screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at now I've had some slow drafts and some fast drafts, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at these different draft boards, and we'll look at a couple of them, and then we'll decide whether how many of them are pretty dead based on what they did. So first draft at random, you saw I took the most recent one that finished. So 2 running backs, 3. All right. So 4 good running backs through. And so what I do is I do a system of demerits, and I either take a full point, which means I think the team is dead, a half point, 3/4 of a point, and so on. So we've got 2, 4, and he does take a 5th in Algier. There's nothing wrong with that. 1, 2 quarterbacks, 1 early, 1 late, 1 with Mac Jones. Tight end, he takes 3 tight ends right here. All right, so this is a good team. All right, I can't take any points off. The next one starts 2 running backs. 3, 4, 5. 5, not bad. All right. 2 quarterbacks. 1, 2. 3 tight ends. Hawkinson. Yeah, nothing wrong with this team. All right. So this is a 0 running back team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a quarterback. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs. And, this is a pretty good 0 running back team, except for one thing. He only took 2 tight ends, and he took them late. That's a half point demerit for team 3. And, he's going behind the 8 ball at tight end. Did I miss anyone? No. And Davis Mills and Tom Brady, that's also a little weak. I'm going to go 3/4 demerit for team 3. You might feel differently, but this is how I do it. All right. So Eckler, Fournette, that's 2, 3. Robinson, 4, 5, 6. Did this team need a 6th? No. It had enough. You got a 1st and a 3rd and a 6th. And to use a running back on a low probability running back as a 6th, I'm going to guess there's going to be weaknesses on this team. Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 wide receivers, none in the first 4 rounds. I'm trying not to get into the players, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, is not a touchdown guy. This is half PPR. I'm going to take at least a half point there. Stafford and Tannehill, a little weak. And tight end, Andrews and Mo Alley Cox, a little weak. I'm going to take a half a point from team 4. It's not terrible. He's not out of it by any means, but he has put himself behind the radar, a little bit. All right. And this isn't even including stacking and correlating, because that really isn't as important for the regular season and what I'm talking about. All right, my team. 1, 2, 3. I didn't take a running back till round 4. All right, so this is a modified 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I did take a 6 because I didn't start till late. I didn't feel that this was a really powerful team. And I took Haskins, who is on Tennessee. All right, that wasn't one where I did that. But I felt that my 5th wasn't strong enough of a role. I started late. Well, let's see how the rest of the team did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I still got 8 wide receivers. I still got 2 quarterbacks in the window, and I still got 1, 2 tight ends. So I won't give it a demerit. Hooper is a reasonable second one with Goddard, who I believe strongly in as the first. I mean, I guess it's not, but that's what you have to give up to take the sixth. But I wanted that 8th wide receiver because Curtis Samuel is someone who could, he's an every game starter. So, no demerits for me on that one. And I will take demerits from myself if I feel that I need them. All right, next. 1, 2. So this is a hero running back build. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty good. That's pretty good 5. He waited. The risk is Kamara is suspension. Harris is a part-time player. Gordon's a part-time player. Mostert might not even be a part-time player, and he got some floor with McKinnon. A little weak at running back. Just not enough to take a demerit. But let's see how it affected the rest of his draft. Burrow and Daniel Jones. That's a little weak for me, too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is a team with 9 wide receivers and tight end Waller and Albert O is good. I mean, it's really hard for me to take points here. But we do have 2 positions I think he's going to be a little weak in. If Burrow is not, Burrow is going to have spike weeks. But what are we going to get out of Daniel Jones? I'm going to take a quarter point from Team 6. It's not much, right? But it's something. No disasters so far. Let's go to Team 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he didn't need a 6th running back. He started with Dalvin. He got another one in the 4th. And then to take Darrell Williams here, tight end, Brait and Pitts. I mean, Brait is almost unusable. Oh, he took a 3rd. So quarterback, where are he? Lance and Winston is not terrible. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 wide receivers. All right. And only one in the 2nd round and the 5th and the 7th, 8th, 9th. I can't take more than a half a point here, but I do think it's a half a point off team. All right. Could even be pushing 3/4. 1, 2, 3 early running backs, 4, and Mark Ingram is his 5th. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 wide receivers again. Where did he bulk up? 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends. All right. He needed 3 tight ends. 1, 2, 3. I guess he needed 3 quarterbacks, but only having 7 wide receivers. This is another half pointer. I mean, he's not dead by any means, but he's put himself behind the 8 ball with only 7 wide receivers when you're ideally and going 3 and 3. The numbers on that aren't great. All right, let's go Rorschach. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is a little concerning to me overall because we're not seeing just awful teams like we did last year. 5. These are good 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Josh Allen with Goff is fine. Tight end Kittle with Knox is fine. All right, no demerits on this team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well-built team. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running backs with one in the first round and one in the third round. Kyler and Tua and Deshaun Watson at quarterback. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, this is a full demerit team, right? It's just built all wrong, and I am going to take a full demerit away. That doesn't mean it can't win, but it is way behind the 8 ball because it didn't get what it needed late, and these should be wide receivers. I mean, these two should be wide receivers. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine. 1, 2. Wilson and Fields is fine. Tight end Kmet and Henry is a little weak. But overall, considering I gave a full point to the last guy, I'm not going to take anything here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs. 1, 2, 3. Little weak. All right. He didn't need a third tight end with Kelsey. That's a demerit. And that's why his running backs are a little weak. Carr, Ryan, and he did take Zach Wilson. I mean, this, again, it's not great. I'm going to take a quarter point, which is low. And you'll see that now 3.25 is 1.25, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 3.25. So let's say 3 teams in general. I've got an edge, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams had a demerit of one kind or another. What this does is it gives me the opportunity to be to advance, right? And that is what I'm trying to do. Let's look at one more team since we've done 17 minutes. Let's go to the second team. And this is actually a good one because you can see how I built the team. I hated this team. All right. This was one of my teams, at least favorite teams of the year. All right. Let's start a quarterback. I couldn't get one that was correlated or stacked. So late, it was Lawrence, Mayfield, and Mariota. I mean, I got 3. They're 3 late. It's not ideal, but at least it's built correctly for a late quarterback build. 1, 2 early, 3 early, Singletary 4, Hines 5. And that's part of my problem, but that's the way the board went. So actually, I'm not going to use this draft because in this one, I don't have an advantage. I don't draft too many teams like that. And I had back-to-back ones like that. So let's go to one of my normal drafts. All right. So I would say a very, very small percentages of my drafts are like that. All right, so here's one where I got the first pick. Now, notice, I noticed that because there's a lot of value most of the season at 2 and 3, well, this time I made sure to go 2 wide receiver, and I didn't take a second wide receiver running back until the 8th, and I got 1, 2, 3, and then Donta Foreman was 5. I like taking Foreman because it's leverage on the McCaffrey team right next to me. Ideally, if Taylor and McCaffrey both go off. Actually, I want to go. Oh, all right. Let's just look at a couple of my teams. I already showed you about the negatives, but let's look at a couple of my teams. That makes sense. So 5, 2 quarterbacks, 1 early, and 1 not too late. I don't like waiting all the way to the end with 2. You can do it. It depends on your team and the stacking and all that. But I had Tyreek Hill. It made sense to put in Tua. All right. And so we're going to switch gears a little bit here. Let's look at my tight ends. This was a late tight end team, so I took 3. Komet, Njoku, and Jordan, which is correct. And I still had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers. Now, let's look at stacking. Let's look at my late players. Wilson is a stack. Foreman gives me leverage. Houston, I've got Nico Collins and him. Houston plays Jacksonville and the Titans. Do I have any Jacksonville? Was that why I was looking at them, or were they just values? They were just values. Okay. I don't take a lot of Kareem Hunt, but let's look at. I got Herbert with Mike Williams, and I like to bring someone back from the Rams. The best one I could get was Darrell Henderson. They also play Week 16 the Colts. Well, that's Colts. Did I get Hines? No. All right, I didn't get a Week 16 correlation here. I normally do, but I did not here. I'm less concerned about a second person from the same team with my stud, because what I often am trying to emulate is the Burrow Chase game last year. To win the tournament, I want the guy, who I think is more likely to put up a monster week. If that's the case, I'm less likely to add a third. Tua, Miami plays New England, and I don't think I got a Patriot here. Oh, I did. Damian Harris. All right, so I built to that. When I saw that I had Tony, I remember doing that now. Damian Harris. So I've got a correlation for Week 17. It's not a great game, so I don't feel the need to go overboard on it. And then Green Bay is the other correlation. So I did not get Week 16 correlations here. But I drafted 2 at once, and it's easy to get sloppy when you do 2 at once. But this was the other team, and my more favored team that I took. Let's see if the spike week thing will load here in a completed draft. It doesn't look like it is. I'm going to try one other thing. I've been curious about that. I want to make sure the spike week thing's working overall. Yep, it is. All right. So let's go back to drafts completed. And I admit it, I had a couple bad drafts that night. They just didn't work out for me. Very, very rare for me to have 3 quarterback builds, and I had 3 in a row. Anyway, great for podcasting. All right, so if this isn't going to load, all right, I could do that on the Spike Week completed page on their website. All right, so here's one where I took the early easy correlation, Week 17, Carolina at Tampa Bay. So now your focus shifts to 2 things when you're drafting. The first one is 2 big quarterbacks, running backs early. You'll notice I don't take one until the 10th round. I did take 6 here, which I normally don't, but Pacheco in the 15th, I guess, was too tempting. And it hurt me a little at tight end with Goddard, Hooper, and Likely. Hines was for floor with ceiling. He also gives me that leverage if Taylor goes down. Now I've got the equivalent of the first and second pick in the draft. Fournette, I added DJ Moore. So this is a big stack up. And I probably shouldn't have taken But what happened is I got the chance to go Bateman, Lamar, and I took it. That took me out of the Brady thing, but I intentionally waited to the end to get Baker so that I would have that stack. All right. So these are the thoughts that go into my head while I'm drafting. So Lamar, we know I've got a stack. They play Pittsburgh. I picked up Claypool and Pickens. So if that game blows up, and then I took Isaiah Likely late. So this team is really supercharged for the playoffs. What's the premise? The premise is Andrews gets hurt, Likely, who's shown a lot. This might be my only Isaiah Likely share, but this team was built for that. So the rest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wide receivers, which is rare for me, but 7 very usable ones. Wandell, starter. You see how it's the orange is up. So 3rd round, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, 9th round, 11th round. And 14th round. I'm pounding wide receiver, which allows me to go 3 tight end. I like this team a lot, but it's not a advanced team as much as it is if this team advances. And it's going to advance based on these 2 guys. If these 2 guys play well, my slight not doing great at construction isn't going to be a problem. So that's some advanced thoughts beyond that, right? You can do that. Let's see, any questions? No questions. Let's look at one more team and then we'll get out of here. All right. So here's one where I had the 7, started 2 running backs, got 2 more here, and I took Eno as a flyer as a 5th late. I could have stopped with these 4. If you're doing Fragile 4, this is the way you do it. A 1, a 2, some good upside guys here. But I felt the team overall. I had 1, 2, 3, and getting Michael Thomas in the 5th, Waddle in the 4th, A.J. Brown a little later than normal in the 3rd. Robert Woods correlates with Dak. Gage was, has dropped a lot. Tight end, Kmet and Hurst. That's a little weak. But I feel like Hurst has a lot of upside. I could have gone 3rd tight end here, but there really wasn't one that I loved. I guess I could have gone Bellinger. Dak and Jameis, very, very strong 2 quarterbacks. Jameis is a very high upside number 2. I had Michael Thomas. So there's your stack there. With Dak, I've got Pollard. And then I came back with Noah Brown, who looks like the number 2 to start the season. It's not the strongest Dak stack, but I got Dak at, let's go back here and look at. All right, so you notice I took Dak right at both these guys I took at average, Henry at average, saved 3 picks here at average, and that was the other thing why I took a good 10-pick value. Got 5 picks here, got 4 picks here, about even here, 4 picks here, 5 picks here, about even, 14 on Landry. So I added a second piece to go with Jameis. No, you're not really looking for value late. So those are some of the thoughts, as well as how I find advantages. That's going to do it. I'll see you in those underdog streets.